It is Friday morning, September 23rd. It is 8:05. I am late. And it's because there's just so much information coming through. I needed to get a couple of things put together before I popped on to Coffee Talk. So I apologize. But we're going to go long today. We're going to talk a lot today about the tropics. And I needed to make sure I had all the ducks in the row. So anyway, good morning. We are tracking a brand new tropical system. It's the same thing that we here have been tracking for what, a week now. We knew that this was going to kind of start to play out, and this is the time frame where it is starting to play out. So let's get right to it. Local forecast today, real quick, because the majority of people are going to be here wanting to talk tropics. So the local forecast is relatively dry. We're talking about generally a 20% coverage of a few showers and thunder showers, okay? Temperatures are going to be in the lower 90s. It's going to be a warm one. But this is the big story. This is Tropical Depression 9, 5 a.m. advisory showing the storm system organizing. And we did not get an intermediate advisory at 8 o'clock. And if I'm honest with you, I was really waiting for that because I thought that we were going to get an upgrade. Now, I'm not excited about an upgrade. I'm not excited about the tropics, and I want to make sure you know that. I love tropical meteorology, but I don't love it when it involves Florida. We're going to get into all the analytical elements here in just a few minutes' time, but let's just start with the data, okay? It's moving to the west-northwest at 13. That was the 5 a.m. position. Obviously, it's continuing to move to the west-northwest. Maximum winds at 35 miles an hour. Here's a look at the forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center, okay? And there you go. Expected to work through the Caribbean, then start to really develop Monday into Tuesday, and then the very end of that cone puts it over southwest Florida somewhere Wednesday early morning, okay? Let's take a closer inspection on this, just rolling through time, okay? Because I want to make sure that we are clear on kind of timelines and on data. So 2 a.m., that's the position, but it could be as far to the right as here or as far to the left as here. So we are absolutely not set in stone regarding its location, okay? Throughout Coffee Talk this morning in that bottom left corner, you're going to see the latest information. We're going to be looking at models. We're going to be looking at Recon. We're going to be looking at everything, okay? But that's kind of where we're at the moment. Now, before we go any deeper into the data, a couple of points, okay? This is the first cone from the Hurricane Center. It's going to shift left. It's going to shift right. It's going to windshield wiper around. Computer models have been doing that, but I don't want you to see this and just zero in on, okay, it's hitting Charlotte Harbor. Or it's hitting Naples, or it's hitting Tampa Bay. I don't want you to focus in on that. What I want you to focus on, you know, a lot of people call the forecast cone the cone of uncertainty, but I actually don't like that. I think that that's the cone of confidence. The cone is where we're confident the storm is going to go. It could be on this side, could be on this side, could be somewhere in the middle, right? But that's the idea of where we are confident that it's going to go, okay? Recon mission has been flying, and the reason that I personally thought that we were going to get an upgrade is, let me pull up the data here, because one of the tools that they use on Recon missions is the SFMR, the Step Frequency Microwave Radometer. I probably just butchered the snot out of that thing. But what it does is it measures winds at the surface. First off, pressure kind of in that 1007 area, okay? Let's look at the winds. There is a Recon mission in there, right? Okay, so there's the kind of wind speeds, and you can see they've generally, on the SFMR, been reading wind speeds in tropical storm status. Now, the mission is out. It's going to kind of cross back in. The actual area of low pressure is sitting right about where my mouse is. It's being sheared still just a little bit. But over the next couple of days, I think that the shear is going to generally calm. And as that shear calms, that's when we're going to start to see the strength of this storm really pick up, okay? So could become a tropical storm today. I personally think that by 11 o'clock if they continue to find those kinds of winds. All right? Then through this weekend, we watch how much more development does this thing yield, right? Like, does it get much stronger? Does it subtly strengthen? How fast or how slow? And then for next week, that's when we watch for any impacts, not just in our area of Central Florida, but across the peninsula as a whole, right? Okay, and one of the big reasons why, and a lot of people ask about sea surface temperatures, but at least in this moment, I think that this is an even better metric because sea surface temperatures here are boiling. Before we even get to the tropical cyclone heat potential, let me come over here and let's just talk sea surface temperatures. Give it a second to load. All right. It's a messy graphic. I'm not prettying this up for you. I apologize. All right. So turn that off. This is one of the things that we just use in the weather department. All right, water temperatures here. 88, 88, 87, 87, 87, 88. The magic number when it comes to tropical systems is 80. Anything above 80 can generate tropical development. Certainly 86, it's over water temperatures right now at like 85, okay? So water temperatures right now where it's located are at about 85 degrees. Over these next couple of days, it's going to be moving over 86, then 87, then 88 degrees. That's the real fuel. But it's not just water temperatures that fuel it. You have to think about the depth, the underwater bathymetry of the ocean body, or in this case, the Caribbean Sea. That's where we really zero in on what is it's a metric that we've used a lot behind the scenes, but why not start sharing it here? The tropical cyclone heat potential. Okay, this is the metric that I think will really grab your attention. So it's in that environment that has heat energy. But once it gets around Jamaica and beyond, that is like rocket fuel. That is not just hot water, but that's like boil. That's the 88, 89 degree water that is deep. And because it's deep, the system is really able to feed on it, okay? So that, frankly, is our concern here, all right? That is our concern. Computer models. Let's take a look and see what the various spaghetti plots are showing. Okay, so we've got our depression working through, and then right about the time that it gets around Jamaica, starts really developing. Coming in around the western tip there of Cuba, not exact locations. And then the models are pretty nicely packed with that recurvature to Florida. But notice they're not like right on top of each other. They're spread a bit, which means this is not a scenario that is 100% set in stone in terms of its locations, right? Fatima, is it more probable to hit Central Florida or the Panhandle? Right now, the computer models are pretty tightly agreed that it's going to be the peninsula, but these things can and do ebb and flow. So they're the spaghetti models. What about the intensity models? All right. Remember, intensity is the weakest of the forecast points, right? But you've got Tuesday, Wednesday, like right up to landfall. You've got these models. Most of them are really going for it. Cat 2, Cat 3. And the Hurricane Center's calling for the winds to be just under Category 3 in intensity. I'm going to take your questions and comments here in a couple of minutes, but I just want to let me run through my spiel, and then we'll get into the questions and comments and all that. So, when we look at the Hurricane Center's forecast cone, let me bring it back up here. When we look at the Hurricane Center's forecast cone, they're calling for winds of 110 miles an hour at landfall, right? 110 miles an hour. Well, let's look at the Saffir-Simpson scale. 110 miles an hour at landfall. Category 3 is 111, right? So it's not that they're keeping it much below model guidance, but they had the decision to make what they would want to do on their forecast cone. Do they want to do it at Cat 3 or do they want to do it at Cat 2? And they edged it on the lower side, right? And so, I think for their purposes, they just want to hedge their bets a little bit. I think that they want to just kind of they don't want to put the Cat 3, there until we start really getting Recon data in the models, until we start getting continued development in the models. But if I'm honest with you, and this is, I always love when during these types of storms, everybody's like, but what do you think, Burris? I'm going to tell you what I think. I think that forecast cone is perfect. I think that intensity is probably underdoing it. Now, before you say to yourself, oh, well, you're just rooting for a big hurricane. No. I have family that lives in Southwest Florida. I have family that lives along the West Coast. I'm a homeowner. I'm a father and a husband. I own a home. The last thing that I want is any of my family to have to get into trouble with any kind of weather. The last thing that I want is to have to leave my family and go cover a hurricane. So I just want to be clear, I do not root for these things. But I am a science person, so I need to look at data, and I need to make sure to give you all the information that I can. That's my promise to you. I think that intensity is underdoing it a little bit, okay? My brother Frank says, St. Pete represent. Exactly. I don't want my brother Frank getting hit by a hurricane. I don't want the Charles family in Fort Myers area getting hit by a hurricane. But here we are. We live in Florida, and I said this yesterday. At the end of the day, we live in paradise, and paradise has to come with a cost. We don't have state income tax. We have hurricanes we have to deal with. All right. So that's kind of the broad look. Now we get into some of the nerd stuff. This is my favorite part of Coffee Talk. Stacy says, anyone that has watched you for any length of time knows you don't hype or hope for hurricanes. Thank you. All right, now some questions. Well, let's get to some questions before we get into the nerd stuff. This was the concern when the Florester came through last year. Oh, and you're right. Yeah. Going back to November last year, we knew that there was going to be a signal, and this is it. Diane's asking, how does this storm compare to Charlie? Diane, that is an excellent question. I think that a lot of people are going to be asking that question. So let's look at Hurricane Charlie just as a comparison. Take a mental snapshot of that. So south of San Juan, we have a depression, a storm south of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, a Category 1 storm around Jamaica, and then that loop around. So take a mental snapshot of that. Let me pull up Hurricane Charlie. Now, I tracked Hurricane Charlie in Central Florida. That was the first hurricane that I tracked in my television career. I want to tell you, I don't hope for that. I also want to tell you that this and that are awful close together. The overall Charlie in the weather world, they're called analogs. In other words, an analog is a storm scenario that is a good comparison. Okay, so here's Hurricane Charlie. Was a tropical storm through much of the Caribbean, became a hurricane near Jamaica, and then started turning right, crossed over Cuba. Was a Category 2 coming off the shoreline of Cuba, and then I remember it was August 12th and the 13th, 2004. I remember it like it was yesterday. Started rapidly intensifying right here. Why did it do that? Because it hit the loop current, boiling hot water. Rapidly intensified, came through our area, Central Florida, as a Category 1 hurricane. There were winds over 100 miles an hour, widespread across Central Florida. It was quick, but I remember it was a damaging system. And if you lived here back then, I can remember blue tarps everywhere. Blue tarps everywhere. So yeah, Ricardo, that's how it jumped from a 2 to a 4. It hit that really warm water. Okay, so that was Charlie. Charlie had a very similar scenario in that it was working into the Gulf and then a trough or a front of sorts picked it up. So if you look at our progress on this storm system, right? A very similar scenario. There is boiling hot, untouched water, though, in the Caribbean. In that year, in 2004, you'd had a few other storms, and it was a little earlier in the season. So maybe the water temperatures weren't quite as bubbly. This could rapidly intensify. Remember, intensity, we have gotten to be pretty good at forecasting, positioning, and paths. Intensity, we're not good. And we know that, right? So, again, I think that's why the Hurricane Center kept a Cat 2 here. But again, Cat 3 is 111 miles an hour. So you're just a little bit off. I think that this intensity is low. We'll play it all out, and we'll play all through it, right? Okay, so that's kind of that. Joel says, Charlie was crazy. I was living right where the eye wall was. No power for a week, and gas lines were ridiculous. Yeah. Yep. Shauna says, I was in a Apopka for Charlie, hiding in the closet and hearing giant oak trees snapping like twigs. Yeah. TJ's asking, do you think that the track will change again? Sure, it's going to. Remember, though, when we look at computer models, and this will be a good caveat to move into the computer models, models are going to go back and forth and back and forth. The forecast is supposed to stay fairly consistent, right? The forecast is a human-interpreted thing. Models are stupid in that they take data in, they spit data out, they don't think about any trends, they just give raw information. So think of it like emotions, right? A forecast is an adult. We're a little should be a little more even-keeled. We're making a forecast. Computer models are like my toddler. At 9 o'clock last night, my toddler said, can we go in the pool? I said no. He freaked out. Right? I was disappointed too. Yeah, I would have loved to go in the pool. But I can process. I can work through that. Sharon, I was in Bokeelia on Pine Island. It was flat. And I remember going, I visited Pine Island quite a bit around Charlie. Yeah, I mean, Pine Island Center through down south to St. James City was something. You headed north toward Bokeelia. I mean, I was amazed to see it. Just getting from Matlacha to Pine Island Center was quite the drive. So yeah, I can remember that very, very clearly, Sharon. How interesting, just bringing those mental pictures back. Are American and European models showing the same thing? All right, Marie, let's get to the raw model data. There's a lot of new people here. So, hi, I'm Eric. I'm a meteorologist at WESH 2 in Orlando. This is Coffee Talk. We get nerdy, okay? This is not just the surface stuff. We do talk the surface stuff, but we get into some raw data. That is not a pretty screen, right? That's not what you're going to see on TV. This is raw model data, but we're going over it together, and we'll analyze it together. So this is the GFS 6Z. This is the most recent GFS model. Pressure getting down to like, I'll do this. The color's going to be a little different, but it's so that I can read the actual lowest pressure. That way I can interpolate how low it is. All right, so you're talking a 967.9 low. Getting there around just the western tip of Cuba. Now remember, yesterday, if we go back a model run, consistent. We go back 2 model runs, starting to be further south. You go back 3 model runs, way west. 4 model runs, even further west. So the GFS has really started, that's the current GFS. The GFS has really started keying in on more of a European scenario, which is frankly what I had said when I was looking at all the models. Right? All right, let's continue through time. Oh, by the way, the timestamp, what you're looking at, it's model hour 99 valid 9Z Zulu time on Tuesday, the 27th of September. Zulu time converts, it's 4 hours off of the Eastern time zone. So, like for example, right now, obviously it is 8:25 in the morning, but it is 12:25 Zulu time. All right, so 9Z, Tuesday the 27th. That's 5 a.m. on Tuesday the 27th. Lifting to the north and then making a hard right turn and going in basically to like Manatee County, you know, Sarasota, Bradenton area. At least that's one model run. We go back a model run and it was a little quicker, but going into about the same area. We go back 2 model runs. It was totally different. All right. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with the GFS. And then from there goes through our area. That's a 995 low. So that would still be a hurricane or a tropical storm. And then going and kind of, oh God, that would be terrible. Wait, when does this? It like stops the GFS. So that's Thursday. That's Wednesday night at 8 p.m. That's Thursday night at 8 p.m. still over us. That's Friday night at 8 p.m. basically still over us. Holy cannoli. Let's not do that. The GFS, let's not do that. Let's not do that. That would dump just buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets of rain over us. Let's not do that. All right, let's move over to the European. All right. European model. And then we're going to go even deeper. See, you're following me and you're new here and you're like, okay, that makes sense. But there are ensembles that we get to look at as well. So let's just roll through time. Oh, I hit the ensemble. I hit the wrong one. Stand by. There we go. All right, European. This is only going to go out 90 hours because it's the 6Z run, but we can switch over to the 0Z. Okay, so that's 90 hours out. A 991 low. Approaching Cuba. We go back 1 model run. It's a little further north, but close enough. Crosses Cuba. Crosses the Keys as a 984 low. So you're talking a Cat 1 / maybe a Cat 2 hurricane. And then makes landfall around Naples. That's the European. You go back another full run, so that's 12Z. And it's kind of in that same spot, okay? So again, we're focusing in on Florida's west coast. We've known this for a while. As a matter of fact, if you follow Coffee Talk much, we've known this since March that this was a possibility. More on that in a little bit. All right, so let's switch over to ensembles. What are ensembles, Burris? So think of ensembles like, I always love bringing this discussion up. So what you're looking at are the GFS ensembles. Each version there are like 20, is it 26 or is it 30 members? 30 members of the GFS, okay? Each one is the GFS. It just runs a little different. The way I like to explain it is think to yourself like you're sitting at a family dinner. Y'all are same family, okay? We're going to pick on Tony Manolfi. We're going to say we're the Manolfi family having Thanksgiving dinner. All right, what are the 2 things you don't talk about at Thanksgiving dinner? Politics and religion. All right? Why? Because no matter how in line everybody is, those topics always spark discussion, right? That's why we don't talk about politics on Coffee Talk. On quieter days, okay? All right. We don't talk about it on quieter days. Right now, we don't talk about much of anything except for the tropics. But on quieter days, we go a little crazy. All right, so anyway, the ensembles, think of it as if somebody brought up politics. And it's like, bah, and everybody's different. That's what you count on with an ensemble plot. Okay? So here are the GFS ensembles. What you're looking for here is consistency, or how tight the model plots are. So you see how they're spread a little bit? That means that the GFS is like, maybe it's a little up here, maybe it's a little down here, but, you know, we don't know, all right? Notice, basically all of them now are wanting to come over toward Florida, right? They spread a little bit, but you kind of get the general gist. Most everything is eastern Gulf of Mexico, right? I will get to more questions here in a minute. I just want to go through the ensembles. All right, let's rewind this. And let me dial up the European ensembles. All right. Look at how tight together the European ensembles are there, right? Yeah, so we've got a pretty good agreement. Look at how tight they are even there. The European also has 50 ensemble members. It has double-ish the ensemble members that the GFS has, so that's why there's more lows. Look at how I would say what, 90%? 90% of them? 90% of them are going over Florida? Yeah. So when you see consistency, so now what we're starting to see here is we're starting to see consistency based on model to model and run to run. And now ensembles are kind of keying in on that as well. So, yeah. I saw a post from a colleague of mine. He said, this was last night. It's been a long time since, he's like, I don't know if I've ever seen so much buzz about a tropical wave. Probably warranted, but still. And it was true. Like, we've been talking about a wave for a while. Doesn't that speak to how good our data is now? I was talking to a good friend of mine at the television station, Trevor. And Trevor was asking me, is this kind of the weather scenario that played out for Charlie? And I said, yeah, almost exactly. The difference is that the modeling is so much better today than it was back then. Think about that. This is a very similar scenario to Charlie in terms of steering flows, in terms of ocean heat potential, in terms of the direction the storm's coming. So, doesn't that speak volumes to how much better our computer forecast models have gotten, right? You know? To me, it does. All right, so that's that. All right, let's talk questions. 20 days ago, your long range showed activity right where and in that area. Amazing. March 1st, we called for this. Yeah, March 1st. Shelley, how many times have these models lined up and the storm went elsewhere? It's too soon to know anything. By this time of year, anyone living in Florida should have their supplies. Also, a Cat 2 is not a huge deal. The natives are not restless. Well, Shelley, I would also say that's 1 mile per hour off from being a Cat 3. Intensity forecasting is terrible. I personally don't think that it'll be a Cat 2. I think it'll be stronger. And no matter what it is, ask our friends in Puerto Rico who just got scraped by a Cat 1. They didn't even get a direct hit. Ask the 1.5 million people that have gone without power for days, without water for days, who are flooded, where bridges have been washed out. Ask them if a Cat 1 that didn't even hit them was a big deal or not. That drives me crazy when people say that, because every storm is different. Seriously, this isn't hype, people. Puerto Rico didn't even get hit by Fiona. They got scraped by it. Tell me the people that are having to find dialysis because there's no power to survive, that they didn't even get hit by a Cat 1 and it wasn't a big deal. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm so triggered by things like that because people's lives are impacted. Granted, their infrastructure is different than ours, but who's to say what every storm brings? Faye is a perfect example of this. Faye dumped inches upon inches of rain. Gas stations were filling up their gas tanks with water and didn't even realize it. And so think of all the people that were impacted by that. Man. Now, I'm not telling you that this is going to be a monstrous deal either, but what I am saying is let's find a happy medium where you're preparing for a storm system. We don't know what it's going to be, but that's why during hurricane season we say just have a little extra water, have a little bit of extra food, that sort of thing, right? Okay, calming down. Serenity now. Dali says Puerto Rico don't have water, light. People there lost houses, cars, and are flooded. Yeah, that's it. And I remember during Maria, when we were tracking Maria 5 years ago, I was talking to people that grew up in Puerto Rico, and they're like, oh, it's no big deal. We can handle it. And it's like, you don't really know that. Every storm is different. Yeah, you've been hit by big ones. We've all been hit by big ones, but we have to watch every one of them and observe. Serenity now. Bo, let's do it, baby. Beverly, yes, Eric. It's not good. I survived Mariana, a couple of hurricanes in Puerto Rico. Six months with no power. What? That's wild. Jessica says, be prepared, not scared. Exactly right. That's it. Tristan, have a cruise leaving out of Port Canaveral on Thursday. Should I be worried it will be canceled? Yesterday said too soon. I mean, it may be on the backside enough. Yeah, I mean, Wednesday, Thursday, it depends. Like that GFS. Ooh, I did not like that GFS scenario. Yeah. Land is land. Homes are homes, no matter the location. Just because we're in the U.S., we're not invincible. It's true. It's true. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate it. Okay, so Mike's asking wind side. So let's, it's early, but let's just kind of get a gauge on the computer models in terms of winds, right? Like let's just throw it together. Let's just see. Understand that this can and will change. And I'm sure that I'm going to have a colleague somewhere that's going to be like, I can't believe you showed the winds. Well, let's just look at it. Too early, but let's get an idea of what it's at least thinking. All right. So this is kind of the gust swath product off of the GFS. All right. So for right now, the gust swath product showing, and it's it's showing what, like 80, 90 mile per hour winds on the west coast, hurricane force winds into Polk County or thereabouts, strong tropical storm force winds into Orlando, and then across to Volusia County. Let's switch over and do precipitation, though. Aha. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Oh, it's only a category whatever. Yeah, do you see what the GFS is showing? Now, remember, the GFS was the model that, like, stopped it over us. Do you see those numbers there? Do I need to zoom it in? Okay, let's do that. Let's hope like hell that the GFS doesn't play out. You see that? Oh, and that's only 120. That's within 120 hours. Yeah. Oh, but you're hyping it. Okay, well, no. But that would show that it would get picked up and kind of stall. I don't know that that's going to play out. I hope like heck that that's not going to play out. Let's look at the European rainfall product. Obviously a very different scenario. You see, yeah, but the European is bringing it in much further south. Like if we look at the rainfall in like Palm Beach, you're talking 6 inches of rain, 7 inches of rain. Still a wet day. Yeah, look at the Treasure Coast there. Yeah, like St. Lucie, 10 inches of rain. So there could be some flooding, right? And as far as winds go, here. Surface wind gust swath. If it strikes into South Florida, obviously it's not going to be a big deal for us in terms of wind. Oh, that's the 60. That's why. Yeah, there's your wind swath. If it strikes like the Naples area, it would be a mostly South Florida event. But rain, we don't know exact paths. That's why we just have to watch. But we're going to be okay if we're prepared. That's all. Oh man. Man. Hide from wind, run from water. That's it. That's it. All right, other questions. Dylan says, based on your experience, where does this go and will tornadoes be a big threat for Central Florida? Great question. So, based on my experience, it really depends, It really depends, and it's just too early to know for sure, right? Because if it comes in around Fort Myers and goes up this way, the tornado threat would be down into like the Palm Beaches. If it makes landfall a little more here, the tornado threat would be around our area. So it really does depend. The forecast is not set in stone. What you watch for is the right front quadrant. The right front quadrant of these storms, if it's moving in your direction, it's that right front quadrant that has the the most spin in the atmosphere, which gives you that opportunity for the tornadoes. All right. Let's see here. How will the Treasure Coast be affected in South Florida? You know, Sarah, that's the thing. We don't know. Once we key into exact locations, we'll have a much better idea. Yeah, we'll have a much better idea. Nora, I have a dumb question. Is Interlochen, Florida going to be okay? I'm stressing out. We're all going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. We don't know what this yet is going to be. But one thing that drives me crazy is when somebody says, oh, it's only a this. We don't know. We just don't know, right? So we'll have to watch it. The number's really small for my old eyes. Where is the rainfall model showing in the purple area? The purple area is a lot of rain. That's at this point, that's all we need to know. Bo says NASA will be bringing in Artemis. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, by the way, we got the Starlink for the weather lab. Just in time, I'll show you. Just in time for Artemis. We got our Starlink. This is Pat Gribben getting the Starlink together. I guess we're not going to be using it next week. Oh well. Do you think if it makes landfall, could be a Cat 3? I do, Josue. That the Hurricane Center. The Hurricane Center acknowledges with Tropical Depression 9. Let me just read some of the discussion on this. However, the model guidance early in its fairly good agreement, but larger across track spread begins to take shape by 48 hours. Currently, the depression is quite disheveled. Structures due to talking about wind shear. I'm just trying to land interact. So what they're saying is potential for land interaction with Cuba may cap off intensity at the end of the forecast. The initial NHC forecast shows the depression intensifying up to a Cat 2 hurricane by the time it nears the coast of Cuba. So, I think that they're just kind of trying to hedge bets and wait and see how this plays out over these next, several days. Can I talk a bit about the other storms, Chris? They're there. They're not going to affect us. This one might, so we're focusing on this one. I'm sorry, Chris. Betty says, seems the Euro is better early than the GFS takes over. Now I concentrate on the GFS. I think we just need to concentrate on both of them. Robin says, I live in a third floor apartment in West Palm Beach. If it comes to South Florida, is it safe for me to remain in my apartment? Where, are you on the beach? Are you not on the beach, Robin? How old is it? Do you have an interior room? Do you have shutters? There's a lot of things that play into it, right? At this point, though, we're just kind of having to watch and see how this all plays out. All right. Let's see here. Did I see Gary Lezak's tweet? I did not. Gary Lezak. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I saw that last night. Yeah. But we knew that, Chris. We knew that. Are there any big fronts coming down from the north that will affect this? Yes. The motion, if you notice on the bottom of the screen there, it's heading like west-northwest, and then it makes a hard right turn into Florida. That is from a front. Timing is everything. Paul over on YouTube says, I'm a roofer. Bring it. Ugh, let's not. Although, Paul, let me get your number just in case, God forbid. Do you think South Brevard will feel effects if it keeps some of what same track? At this point, I think it's possible that we get some effects. It's possible that that we don't. We're in the cone right now, which means we need to be watching it, right? That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Yep. That's where we're at. Let's take a look at while we're sitting here chatting. Let's look at update. I haven't seen the Recon here in the last couple minutes. John, I think I know your answer, but we have friends coming to Disney on Monday. Do you think it would be wise to change plans? You know, maybe. Depends how easily they're able to change those plans. Lindsay, is anyone boarding up their windows? I was thinking of buying wood at Lowe's, but not sure if I need to. I'm inland in Broward County. For right now, we don't know what we don't know. All right? All right, so for right now, the Recon mission looks like it's about to make another pass. It's located right there. So I'm curious how the pressure looks. We've gotten down to 1,007 millibars. That's the baseline. So let's see if the pressure drops on this next pass. All right. Do you believe it will rapidly intensify? Brandon's asking. I think that once it starts going and the wind shear drops, I think that it's going to get going. Yeah. Anne Marie's asking about a Volusia County impact. Too early for that. Too early to know specifics. It just is. All right. Can I come to your house and make coffee if I lose power? I've told all my neighbors that there's a power plug on my patio, on my front porch. And whoever needs to make coffee, you plug in and make coffee. Right? Maybe reschedule, Rosebud says. Yep. Tristan! Eric, if you could have dinner with one other weather person, past or present, who would you pick? Wow, Let's think about that when I'm not focused on forecasting. That's a deep question. Yeah, that's a deep question. I don't know, Tristan. At the moment, I don't know. All of them? I don't know. Chris says, and this is important, Chris says, don't forget to stock up on beer. Hey. Well, yeah, it's funny. Everybody's like, yeah, we love hurricane parties. This has got to be your Super Bowl, Burris. And I'm like, yeah, working long shifts, away from family, not drinking the beer. I have a 2 p.m. Tuesday flight out of Orlando. Do you think we'll be affected? No, I think Tuesday you'll be fine. So which would be better as a safe place, Tiffany's asking? A bathroom with no windows or an exterior wall, or our great room in the middle of the house away from exterior walls, but with an open floor plan, windows are surrounding. I would say the no windows one, because windows are absolutely the weak point in a house. Yeah, but we're too early to be talking about, evacuating or hiding. Like at this point, we're just watching. It's a tropical depression, and it's a ragged one. All right? Gabriella, what is the timeline? Tuesday over Cuba. Wednesday morning, somewhere in this vicinity here. Yeah. FEMA, if we are hit, will be in overdrive between Puerto Rico and Florida. Yeah. Diane's asking, will Ocala be affected? It's possible. The forecast cone is not certain yet. So think about it. You see how tiny the cone is down here, and then it gets dramatically wider? So think about if it stays small through Sunday, if it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so 2 days, the cone is small through 2 days. So if we look at timeline, by Sunday, it'll be around Jamaica, right? So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So the cone is going to be awful small by Sunday, especially Monday. So I would say, honestly, Sunday into Monday, this forecast cone is going to be pretty tight. This forecast cone is going to be pretty zeroed in. So we're going to have a pretty decent idea at that point. All right, I'm just skimming through comments. There's so many questions. I'm doing my best. I'm not ignoring any of you. I apologize. If it speeds up, does it push that? Does it push it further east sooner? There's the problem is if it speeds it up, it could recurve quicker. But then if it speeds it up, does that mean that the upper trough is weaker? So then it plays out. Like it's not just one change. It's, well, what makes it speed up? Is it because if this plays out differently, then this changes. That's why weather has, weather's like thousands of variables. And so if one thing changes, does the other thing change too? The reality is everything is constantly changing. And so you're constantly having to tweak, right? How far north will it go? Listen, we're focusing on Central Florida. That's where we're focusing right now. Micah says Parents Weekend for UCF. This is a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday thing. Like, the weekend should be fine. The weekend should be fine. All right? Not a celebration time. Not for those in its path. Yeah. So, how far north will it go? We're focusing right now on the cone that we have. After that, could it strike into the Carolinas? It's possible. Does the BSR show a direction? Yeah, this is kind of lined up with the BSR. The BSR indicated it a little further to the east, but, at the end of the day, a couple of miles this way or that way, not much of a difference. But the LRC, this is almost following this. Let me show you. So the long-range forecast that we put out in March, this is the November 6th part of the pattern. Look at the November 6th. This is what we highlighted. I showed this very graphic March 1st. This is the November 6th part of the pattern. That's the path of the November 6th part of the pattern. This storm that we are watching right now is the recycle of this. A couple of miles up or down, but there you go. So at least we knew months and months and months and months and months ago. This is the area that I highlighted as being the area of concern for the November 6th part of the pattern. And then I went on to point out these three kind of timelines. Mid-May, it was a storm system, but it was not tropical. Late July, it was a storm system, but it was not tropical. And here we are, late September. This is kind of months and months and months ago. This is the area of shoreline that I highlighted. And then over here, as it maybe exits the coastline. So, we highlighted this months and months and months ago. Tropics, man. Let's see here. I've seen models saying that a Cat 3 is a big possibility. Of course, it's a big possibility. Intensity on these things is the weakest link we have in forecasting. Intensity is by far and away the weakest. Here's the intensity models. And we're going to be getting new models in here shortly. But, there are models that are bringing it up. As long as it isn't like Andrew. We don't know yet. We don't know anything, right? Let's see here. When does the next cone or forecast come out? 11 a.m. is the next update from the Hurricane Center. They're inside investigating it as we speak, so it'll be interesting to see what else they find from it, right? Ruben, thanks for the no-hype updates. Of course. Listen, I will give you all of the data. I will give you all of the data, all of it. And, share it with you with context. When is the next update? Already answered that. Wonder how West Coast will be next Friday. Hopefully not too bad. Would it going over Cuba affect it at all? Giovanni's asking. Yeah. The land interaction certainly would take a toll. The question is, how strong is it by the time it gets there, right? And how quickly does it move over and off of Cuba? What exact spot of Cuba does it go over, right? Hold on one second. Are the waters warmer in its path? Michael's asking. Yes. Yeah. The hottest water in the entire basin is in its path because there's not been any decent storms to churn it up, to upwell it. So yeah. Thoughts about flying out of Orlando Thursday at 5:45? You might be okay. Yeah, you'd probably be okay. Yeah, you probably... Unless the GFS is right where it just stalls out. Do you know when the governor will put a state of emergency? I don't know that. Tina, thank you very much. So it could potentially make 3 landfall? I mean, maybe. Kelly says, I live in Naples now, So a little freaked out. Don't be freaked out. We'll be watching. Listen, we'll be watching. Okay? At this point, we're just watching. This is the first cone. We're going to have many of these coffee talks. We're going to have many of these discussions. It's going to change. What we don't need to do is freak out. But what we also don't need to do is underestimate anything, right? Vanessa says, it is so hard to read a question, which are mostly repetitive. Let Eric tell you everything he knows. Let him do his job. It isn't easy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I understand it. Everybody's concerned, and I just want to be here to offer as much calm as I can. But also make sure to keep everybody on their toes, right? Because, it's just a this, it's just a that. No. We're not doing that game. Liz, I have my daughter's 5th birthday next Friday at Disney. What are we looking like? Hopefully it's out by then. Yeah. Just check all your supplies, Sarah says. Fill jugs with tap water. Fill up your cars with gas because the lines are going to get crazy. Yeah. Melissa says, I'm freaked out in Punta Gorda screaming for my life. I'm going to assume that that's what you meant there. Let's watch. Let's wait. Let's make sure to follow this together. We're okay. It's okay to be worried, but I'm here to calm you down. Okay? Remember that. So that cone can be changed over the day goes by. Oh, absolutely. Every time the Hurricane Center updates the cone, which is going to be 5 a.m., 5 p.m., 11 a.m., 11 p.m., the cone is going to be adjusted based on new model data, etc., etc., etc. Christy, Eric, North Orlando Concrete Home. Prepare to board up. Slow down. Slow down. We don't know where it's going yet. Slow down. Valerie, Daytona and a 55 and over park. I assume you mean RV park or mobile home park. Slow down. Let's just watch it. My goal here is to make sure that we just watch it. That's all. Okay? Just watch it. Nothing more, nothing less. My motto, Barb says, I've learned from you, expect the unexpected. Yeah, that's it. Can we talk about the front coming down, the potential scenarios with storm speed and potential impacts? Essentially, at the end of the day, Kristen, it all comes down to, here, I'll show it to you on the model, but essentially, it would drive it a little further east or a little further west. That's the essentials. So let's do this. Back to the raw model data we go. All right. So this is the 500 chart. I feel like I'm a professor here, like Professor Burris's class, okay? All right, so this is the 500 chart. I'm going to scroll it down so that you can see the storm system and all of this evolution. So as the storm system is developing down here, okay, you're going to be deepening this little upper trough. And that upper trough is essentially, this is high pressure in yellow. So as the storm system, let's just take it even one step. Let's go back. So as it's developing, high pressure is north of it, which is why it's just running off to the west. But at some point, that high pressure is going to start to weaken, and this upper trough is going to start to make a pathway, okay? And it's that pathway that the storm system finds and follows. The path of least resistance. What is this little thing? Oh, that's fun. Little upper low. Bringing us more rain, it looks like. That's super cool. By October 2nd. All right, so anyway, we'll look at you later. We'll look at you later. Let's just focus on this. So that's the steering flow. So what can change, right? It's the timing is everything. And it's just so ironic because this is the exact charts. I mean, if I looked back, I don't know if this will go back, but let's just do this for fun. Daily weather map. I'm sure it'll go back, actually. Yeah, 2004, August 12th, 2004. Let's look at the 500 millibar charts. This is the 500 millibar chart. A couple of days before Charlie. Copy image address. Okay, so this is the 500 millibar chart a couple of days before Charlie. There's Charlie. There's that upper trough, right? Let's go to the 13th, the day the storm was hitting. There's Charlie. There's that big trough. I mean, like, if you look, that's 2004. That's this year. Same idea. Storm, trough. Exact same scenario. It's almost like, oh man, you got to be kidding. You got to be kidding. Like, but there you go. Right? So for those of you that were asking, like, is this like Charlie? That's the wrong one. Hold on. That's Charlie. You know, is this like Charlie? Yes. Yeah. Yes, as a matter of fact, it is. That's August 12th, 2004. Kind of funny when that happens, right? Let me take you. Let me close you out. Yeah, that's the Charlie 500 trough storm system. Let's go back a couple of days, right? Oh, that's the 12th. We'll go to the 13th. Yeah. So there's the storm system. There's the trough. Looks almost familiar, doesn't it? It's the exact same scenario. Gross. It's looking very healthy this morning. It's sheared, but the convection is firing up. Cindy, we love making the sausage. I'm just glad that you guys enjoy looking at the nerdy stuff. I feel like we're overdue for a storm, if that makes sense. I mean, it's never great. It's never great. All right, it's 9:01. Chris says an 18-year recycle. Gross. All right, it's 9:01. I will pop on again live and chat with everybody when we get to the 11 o'clock advisory, okay? All right? Don't freak out. Let me put this cone back up here. Don't freak out. Let's track it. Let's follow it. We're going to be doing that. But I've got to get on a call. Be the sunshine in someone else's day. I'll see you guys and gals at 11 o'clock. It'll be a quick update. And then, yes, we'll do a much deeper dive looking ahead to 3:30. All right? Be the sunshine.